The Ioniq lineup has always been about the big swing. The Ioniq 5 was the retro future box that broke the internet. The Ioniq 6 was the streamlined sedan that looked like nothing else on the road. But this new Ioniq 3 is doing something much harder. It is trying to be normal. At 4,155 millimeters long, it's a compact hatchback designed for European streets, produced in Turkey, and built on the same architecture that underpins cars twice its price. It is 15 inches shorter than a GV60, yet it arrives with a specific set of interior upgrades that make the larger, more expensive cars in the stable feel suddenly dated. There is a specific reason why this supposedly budget-friendly model actually carries more advanced software than the flagship Ioniq 6, and I'll explain exactly how that happened about 3 minutes from now. Hyundai is calling this the Aero Hatch. It's a new typology that tries to solve the one problem every small EV faces. If you make it aerodynamic, you lose the headroom. If you make it boxy, you lose the range. The Ioniq 3 attempts to split the difference with a roofline that stays flat over the passengers before diving toward a sharp rear spoiler. It looks like the bolder concept we saw recently, but in the metal, it's more about art of steel. That isn't just marketing pros. Hyundai is leaning into their history as a steel manufacturer to create surfaces that look like they were pulled tight over the frame rather than molded. The pixel lighting is here, of course, because an Ioniq without pixels is just a Kona. But look closer at the 4 dots on the steering wheel and the lights. That's Morse code for the letter H. It's a small detail, but in a segment where everyone is copying Tesla's homework, Hyundai is at least writing their own notes. The precision of this art of steel philosophy means the Ioniq 3 avoids the usual plastic cladding that manufacturers use to hide a car's height. Because batteries are thick, small EVs often look like they are wearing platform shoes. Hyundai has used a sharp character line that runs through the doors to pull your eye down, making the car look more grounded and athletic than it actually is. It has a target drag coefficient of 0.263, which is remarkably slippery for something this short. That efficiency isn't just for show. Every point of aero drag reduced is a point of range earned on the motorway. The exterior design earns your attention. Whether the interior can hold it is the question that actually determines if this car is a bargain or just a small car. You open the door and the first thing you notice isn't a screen, it's the layout. Hyundai calls this the furnished space approach. It's inspired by 1970s Italian furniture design, which sounds like something a designer says to justify a high price. But here it translates to a cabin that feels like a room rather than a cockpit. You sit down and the floor is completely flat. Because this sits on the eGMP platform, there's no transmission tunnel, no hump, nothing. You have the legroom of a car from the segment above. But then you look at the center stack. Below the 12.9-inch or 14.6-inch screens, there is a row of physical switches. I want to pause here because this matters. For years, we've been told that buttons are old-fashioned. We've been forced to dive into 3 submenus just to change the fan speed. Hyundai's new Pleos Connect system, which debuts here for Europe, runs on Android Automotive. It is fast, it is beautiful, and it is capable. But Hyundai still gave you buttons for the heated seats, the temperature, and the fan. There is even a physical knob for the volume. Picture yourself at 8:30 on a rainy Tuesday morning. You're trying to navigate a narrow city street, your coffee is in the holder, and you need to clear the fogging windshield. In almost every other new EV, you'd be poking at a piece of glass. In the Ioniq 3, you just reach out and click a switch. You don't even have to look. That is what progress for humanity actually looks like in practice. The software itself is a revelation for the brand. Because it is based on Android Automotive, the navigation is essentially Google Maps natively integrated into the car's preconditioning logic. If you tell the car you're heading to a charger, it prepares the battery temperature while you're still 5 miles away. The interface is clean, the graphics are sharp, and for the first time in a Hyundai, the system feels as responsive as the phone in your pocket. They have also included Easter eggs throughout the UI. The ambient lighting can be set to dual color mode, where the top and bottom of the cabin shift independently to reflect the time of day or your driving mode. It creates an atmosphere that feels premium without feeling clinical. The materials inside are a mix of recycled textiles and bio-based surfaces. It doesn't feel like a cheap car trying to look expensive. It feels like a considered space that knows it's a compact car. For reference, the Volkswagen ID.3 still struggles with haptic sliders on the steering wheel that you accidentally trigger while turning. The Ioniq 3 has real buttons on the wheel. It's a win for muscle memory. However, that sharpness in the software comes from the fact that this is the first Hyundai in Europe to use the Pleos system. The trade-off is that the lower dash plastics are definitely harder and less premium than what you'd find in an Ioniq 5. You notice it when you reach for the USB ports, but considering the price point this needs to hit, it's a compromise that makes sense. A compact hatchback boot should be an afterthought. Hyundai treated it like a design brief. The trunk capacity is 441 liters, around 15.6 cubic feet. On paper, that is segment leading, but the number hides the cleverness. Under the false floor is what they call the Megabox. It's an integrated storage area that adds 119 liters, about 4.2 cubic feet of deep storage. It's deep enough for tall items or just for hiding the charging cables so they aren't sliding around the main boot area. If you're a young family, that Megabox is the difference between a stroller fitting and you having to leave the parcel shelf at home. 145 horsepower. That is the output of the standard range model. In a world of 3-second hyper EVs, that number sounds modest. But the question is how that power feels in a car that weighs under 1,600 kilograms. The Ioniq 3 standard range does 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 9 seconds flat. That's roughly 8.8 seconds to 60 miles per hour. It isn't fast, but because it's an electric motor with 250 Nm of torque available instantly, it will feel punchier than any petrol hatchback at a stoplight. Now here's the contradiction. If you step up to the long-range model with the 61 kWh battery, you actually lose power. It drops to 133 horsepower. It's also slower to 100, taking 9.6 seconds. Why? Because the bigger battery adds weight, and Hyundai has tuned the motor for maximum efficiency to hit that 308-mile range target. You are trading a half second of sprint time for an extra 95 miles of range. For most people, that is a trade worth making every single day. The driving dynamics are also a departure from the larger Ioniqs. While the 5 and 6 are rear-wheel drive as standard, the Ioniq 3 is front-wheel drive. This might upset the purists, but for a compact hatch, it's the correct decision. It makes the car feel more predictable in wet European winters and allow the engineers to package that massive Megabox in the rear without a motor getting in the way. The suspension has been tuned for comfort over ultimate cornering speed. It uses a multi-link rear setup that helps it soak up the kind of broken urban asphalt that usually makes small cars feel jittery. It feels like a car that was developed on actual roads, not just a simulation. Hyundai has also included vehicle to load, or V2L, both inside and out. This means you can plug a standard household appliance into the car. If you're camping, you can run a coffee machine. If you're working remotely, you can power your laptop for days. In a car this size, that level of utility is usually the first thing that gets cut from the budget. Hyundai kept it. They understood that an EV shouldn't just be a way to get from A to B. It should be a tool that makes your life easier. The charging story is where the Ioniq 3 shows its value roots. Unlike the Ioniq 5 and 6, this does not have an 800-volt architecture. It is a 400-volt system. That means you aren't getting the 18-minute charging stops. Instead, you're looking at 29 minutes to go from 10 to 80% on a DC fast charger. For reference, a coffee stop and a quick walk usually take about 25 minutes. You're only losing 4 minutes compared to the flagship, but the cost saving on the car's purchase price is likely thousands. It's a pragmatic decision. The conclusion I reached after looking at these figures is not the one I expected to reach walking up to the car. I thought I would miss the 800-volt speed. I realized I'd rather have the physical. 46,989 euros is where we expect the high-trim versions to land, but the entry price will be significantly lower. What this car actually settles is not just the compact EV segment, it's a question of philosophy. For the last 5 years, car companies have been trying to convince us that premium means more screens. Hyundai just proved that premium actually means more consideration. The Ioniq 3 is a car designed for the person who wants to stop thinking about their car the moment they start driving it. If you're the type of driver who values the tactile click of a climate control switch over the bragging rights of a sub-3-second sprint, this is the first EV that feels like it was built for you. It takes the best parts of the eGMP platform, strips away the expensive 800-volt theater, and replaces it with the best interior usability I've seen in years. This Ioniq 3 is a better daily driver than the Ioniq 5 because it respects the driver's muscle memory more than the brand's flagship. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I read every single one. And don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified about my next upload. See you in the next video.